Welcome to the Niles Depot, home of the Historical Society. We're located in the Niles District of Fremont, California. I'm Jeff Merrill. I am the supervisor for the N-scale layout. We also have an HL scale layout in the neighboring freight building. So let's take a tour of the N-scale layout representing Niles, Shin, Union City, and all the areas surrounding this, and the Southern Pacific and Western Pacific Railroads. We're located here now in Niles, representing the local community and part of the historical foundation. We use buildings and structures available from some commercial suppliers and scratch build, although it's really difficult to actually emulate the exact sizes, shapes, and locations. In model railroading, it's very common to use selective compression because you can't really fit all the actual square miles or square feet all in one spot. Here we have a depot with the local passenger and freight, and around the back line is Niles Boulevard. The Niles District is accessible from Highway 84 and Mission Boulevard, or from 880 freeway. You can come up Niles Alvarado Boulevard. We'll bring you also into the Niles District of Fremont. This is where movies were shot in the early days before Hollywood, famous Bronco Billy and Charlie Chaplin location. This is the Union City Movie Theater, located down around Highway 880, as you can see in the background from the early days of the 60s. The movie theater eventually gained several screens, but ultimately, with the indoor cinemas, was replaced by nothing but dirt and commercial properties. The movie theater was built by Robert Ray using a laser cutter and a headrest type display removed from its case, placed inside. There's a small MP4 player located down below, loaded with multiple movies, so we have a constant rotation throughout the open house on Sundays from 10 to 4. This is the Union State Steel, which was located on Niles Alvarado Boulevard. It was closed up in the late 60s. It's now an EPA Superfund site, amazingly. This is a model that is actually close to 6 feet long if it was built the way it would be in place. But again, with model railroading, you have a lot of selective compression used to fit everything in a needed space. SP passenger train is now running through the Shin area, located between Niles and farther south to the Milpitas and Fremont areas. The Shin area had a very large sheetrock factory, which on the scene that you're looking through here would be close to about 4 feet long. And again, it would be very hard to represent that in this particular neighborhood, but eventually we'll find some sort of simulation to put in place. Here's a view from the Niles Canyon. The Western Pacific line was the second line coming through the canyon. The Southern Pacific line, which was formerly the Central Pacific stuff, was the first line through the canyon, is now used by the Niles Canyon Railway. The Western Pacific line comes out of the tunnels, which had to be created because that was the most difficult path to get through the canyon. As it rolls across the bridge towards the Sunol and out into the Livermore Valley area. On the back side of the layout, we have a lot more freelance locations, as again, difficult to represent all the individual cities and byways of the Southern Pacific and Western Pacific lines. The SP line out of Sonol eventually runs out into the valley area. The Western Pacific line also follows a tortuous different path as it gets out into the valley. These are Walther's turntable and roundhouse kits built up in here to provide typical steam era turntables used. More modern railroads don't use roundhouses anymore, just simplistic service shops. In the back, we have a junkyard and an oil refinery that's eventually going to be put in place to go along with it. This is the main yard area. We have a upper large main yard primarily for staging trains for run sessions and also for scheduling and op sessions. The lower front yard is for passenger service. Of course, passengers were very popular through those days, so we have multiple platforms, a large station, which was roughly to represent the Oakland area. In the background is an engine service location that would be for fueling and sanding. We are planning to add a wash racks for the passenger cars at the end of the lower passenger yard line. Here we have the lower staging area. There are two sections to this. There's one set of tracks that are long all the way around the corner, and we have two sections in the front for shorter and more loading of the rolling stock and locomotives. This is for storing trains, mostly for after hours or long time when we have an op session when multiple trains are ready to run. This is the brewery location, and the backdrop is fascia-type buildings. When you don't have the appropriate depth to put full buildings in, you tend to cut them to the point where they just have a relief contour. Train rolls through the east point here where we have a couple of crossovers allowing us to exchange tracks coming in and out of the helix. Small lumber scene here in the front. And eventually we'll have a little propane site located here too. Off to the left, we'll end up going into the helix, which allows trains to go from the upper deck, which will be added on eventually, the lower staging, which you saw previously, and also continually just loop around and continue back on the main deck. The helix is a classic two-track helix for one track up, one track down. Again, the helix allows you to take trains from a higher level to a lower level in a small amount of space. The scenery on the outside represents the near foothills, and eventually there will be a upper level helix attachment that will allow us to come out to a higher level above all the layout that you are currently viewing in this video. As the trains exit the helix, they will pass through some of the scenes previously shown, heading back on their way back to Niles. rolling in from the valley and then onto the Niles Canyon towards the city of Niles. In the background you can see the infamous secret sidewalk that most people never realized as they drove through the canyon was a water aqueduct. Coming across the Firewall Bridge. Heading into Dresser, which eventually runs into the Niles Y. The WP coming in through the canyon. Welcome back to Niles. Thank you for joining us here at the Niles Depot Historical Society's N-scale layout in Fremont, California.